Congratulations, you've just found the #1 over 50 health and wellness podcast on the planet. Hello and welcome to the Over 50 Health and Wellness Show. I'm your host, Kevin English. I'm a healthy aging expert. I'm the founder of the Silver Edge, and I am on a mission to help men and women just like you build lean, strong, healthy, capable bodies they love for the rest of their lives. Today, I am thrilled to welcome back one of our rock star coaches here at the Silver Edge. Russell Medeiros is joining me on this episode. And in this episode, Russell and I dive into some interesting personal stories, from canoeing trips to dealing with some unexpected serpent visitors. Plus, we're going to discuss how to navigate the tricky waters of staying healthy and active while on vacation, and why it's crucial to sometimes take a break. This is a packed episode with lots of insights and some laughs along the way. So whip up your protein smoothie and let's get started. Russell, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, or I guess I should say welcome back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So folks that don't know, Russell is one of our rock star coaches here at the Silver Edge. He is a frequent co-host here, so you probably heard him on some of our older episodes. But Russell, man, what's been going on with you lately? What's new?
Kids are back in school, so nice and early, back into school, and thought we'd do one last little hurrah away. And I did a canoeing trip that I've done. I did, God, it has to be 15 years ago. And I was like, oh, so much fun jumping in and canoeing. So I thought it'd be a great thing to take the boys and have them do that. Well, I didn't think it through all the way. And it turned out to what I thought. I don't remember it being this long, but it was a 10.5-mile journey.
Yeah.
And with a river not moving at all. So you're the power.
Right.
And then my 14 and 11-year-old boys weren't much help with the.
They weren't much help. So you were doing most of the powering there then, huh? It was dad power trip.
I tell you, I was sore for days after. Just muscles I forgot I had, and lats and back and shoulders.
Yeah.
And,
that as well with canoeing. Yeah.
And then sitting for that long too.
And that posture, that position.
You forget how tight you can be just doing.
Now, was this an overnight trip? Is this a day trip? What was
Well,
this?
we did an overnight. We spent the night prior to and did that. So, and then got up early because it was about 2 hours away from my home. So I figured we'll spend a little overnight. So it was fun. We had a great time jumping in and being silly. And what's great about those things too is like no phones, no YouTube, no none of that. So you really get a chance to connect with your kids, and you don't have the distractions of home and whatnot. So that's always fun.
That's awesome.
Those are always my best times, like little hikes with the boys or something like that, where we have, it's just us. So, there'll be some great conversations. So.
Yeah, connect with each other, connect with nature, right? The natural world, which unfortunately a lot of youth today just not really connected there, right? It's not most of us listening to this, when we grew up, it was a go outside and play, regardless whether you were in an urban environment or rural environment. That's kind of what you did, right?
Yeah.
In today's electronic world, it's less and less so. So yeah, man, I'm glad to hear you guys had a good time.
Yeah.
Sounds like you got a great workout as well. Good shoulder workout, good back workout.
I told my clients that's what I'm going to schedule them to do.
Is that right? Yeah, 10 hours of canoeing.
Row.
10-mile row coming up for you.
Yeah,
love it.
That's the punishment phase.
Yeah, right. Oh, the punishment phase. All right, folks. So most of you, I don't know, most of you, those of you that have been around here for a while probably know that in our we have a 6-month coaching program, and basically there's this very specific framework. It's got a pre-diet phase, a diet phase, post-diet phase. Now, if you're one of Russell's clients, you're liable to have a punishment phase at the end of that. I just can't help you out. That's just how it is, right? So you got some rowing coming at the end of that. I love it.
It's going to be tough.
All right. Well, hey, man, do you remember back 3 or 4 times ago when we were talking, I was telling you about my snake problem in the chicken coop?
Yeah.
I kept getting snakes in the dang chicken coop, and I caught a few of them, and knock on wood, none of them were poisonous, right? But some of them were pretty sizable, and I was grabbing them with my hands, and so that was getting kind of sketchy. I don't like to do that. I don't want to get bit. Thankfully, I have not been bit, but they wrap all around you. It's a little freaky, right? Yeah. So I bought this professional snake catcher. So anyways, I've been dealing with the snakes pretty well, and just so folks know, these are rat snakes, black racers. We had a king snake in there, and a bunch of garter snakes. So they're in there for the eggs. So I bought on Amazon this snake catcher, and I've been handling them. I take them over to the neighbor's field and I chuck them. So I'm relocating the snakes kindly. And I think I told you at the time, like, dude, I've probably gotten 20 snakes out of my coop in the last couple of years, but I've never seen a poisonous snake. Well, in the last week, we've had 3 copperheads out here. So my son, who lives on the property here, he's in a house right down the road, said, "Hey, Dad, I saw a snake going into the chicken coop." So I run over there. Sure enough, not a great big one, but there's a copperhead. I was like, "Oh man." So I got the snake catcher right there. I keep it in the chicken coop. I caught him, and he did not get relocated. So let's just say that he's no longer with us. So took care of that, and I thought, okay, well, dang, that's 1 out of 20, not bad. If I see one of those every 3 years, that's fine. Yeah. Dude, this weekend, my son, who was back, actually he was over at our house, and we had all 3 dogs out back, and he goes, "Dad, is that a snake? Is that 2 snakes?" And in my yard, which is bordered by, we got woods all around, but in the yard part of my yard, there's 2 snakes with their heads up out of the grass. I'm like, holy crap. Wow. And the dogs somehow sense that we're looking there. And of course, as a pack, they go, rah, 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 rah. They go galloping over there, and they're woof, 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 woof. And I see one of the, I've got this little, I don't even know how to describe her. My old girl is like, she's 14, and she's just the truest sense of a mutt. I couldn't begin to describe what she most resembles, because she's just a full-on mutt. I've got a mostly Australian cattle dog. And I've got this big, badass, werewolf-looking Irish wolfhound. Well, they're all over there, and they're yelling at the dogs, "Get away, get away, get away." And sure enough, one of those snakes comes up and strikes at that big werewolf-looking dog. And I couldn't tell if it hit or not. So I think I've told this statistic that after the age of 30, I think 90% of people will never sprint again in their life. Well, I am sprinting full out. I get there, we get the dogs out of there. I can't tell if my dog's been hit, but it is a pair of copperheads. I was like, oh crap. So now I'm sprinting full tilt back into the house, grab the shotgun, and I'm happy to report, depending on how you feel about snakes and poisonous snakes, those snakes are also no longer with us. They tried to slither away between the time I went and got the gun and got back. But yeah, man, I saw 3 copperheads now in the last week. So I've been online, I've been researching copperheads, and it turns out here in the Southeast, August is in fact their mating season and baby season. So my Scottish deerhound did in fact get hit. He got bit. We got back in the house, and he was like making this weird licking thing, and he was laying down. He was panting. I was like, oh man. So I took him to the emergency vet. Sure enough, he had the venom in him, and they, $1,000 later, we're out of there with some pain pills, basically. But they do these tests just to make sure, I don't know, if either their blood is or is not coagulating or something, just to make sure they're not reacting to the venom, and sent us home. So at any rate, that was my weekend here with the dang snakes. So yeah, I spoke too soon, talking smack about not having poisonous snakes. So at any rate, I've been digging into Google, right? Because I've heard all kinds of things. Put sulfur down around your yard, and snakes won't cross over the sulfur. I'm like, okay, I'll just go to wherever you buy sulfur, right? Probably online, and I'll just go buy a 50-pound sack of it and just surround my property. I'm on 3 acres out here in a little farm. But some Google research quickly dispelled that myth. I heard somebody say, put mothballs down. Snakes hate that smell and won't come anywhere near it. Turns out that's not true either. So basically, this is their breeding season, and they breed under logs and woods and little, under things. And oddly enough, you can smell them at this time of year. That's got a strong cucumbery smell. So I've been creeping around in the woods, like kicking over logs and stuff and sniffing. Do I smell them? I've not found any, but
that's funny.
Yeah, I'm at war with the copperheads here. They were here before me, and you could make a case that they have as much right to be here as I do. But that's just not the case. Or it may be the case, but sorry, my rules here.
I'm not sure about copperheads, but can you elevate the coop?
Well, yeah, so that was my wife saying, hey, and of course now where the snakes were this weekend in my yard was 100 yards from the chicken coop. They weren't, I think there were 2 of them. I think they were getting it on. It was probably date night for them. They're like, hey, let's roll into this yard over here. It's looking pretty good. We'll get it on. Make some baby snakes.
You hear any music?
Exactly. So it was a bad day to be a copperhead for them that day. That date night ended disastrously. But yeah, snake proofing my chicken coop. There's just so many little kind of places, I'd have to seal it. Yeah. And of course, in the daytime, it's open. The chickens are free range. They can go wherever they want. Oh, yeah. And so they just go in at night, and I shut them in. But yeah, no, I think it's just a reality that there's, where there's chicken eggs, there's going to be some snakes. But I have heard also in my research that the snakes that we have a lot of, like the black racers and the king snakes and whatnot, they prey on baby copperheads. So they're good. They're good to have around. They're actually helping perhaps the venomous snake population here. But at any rate, I want to give you an update on that because I think last time I was talking smack, I was like, no, I hadn't seen any poisonous snakes, and turns out they're here.
Yeah, now you got to watch where you put your hands.
Yeah, and well, the thing is, there's acres for the dogs I've got it all fenced, but the dogs they've got free range, and some of what we've fenced in is actually fairly wooded. So now I'm kind of like, every time I let the dogs, I'm like, oh man, I hope there's not a snake out there, another copperhead. And at the emergency vet, they said, hey, adult snakes will give a warning bite. They don't want to give up all of their venom, but baby snakes are even more dangerous because they haven't learned to control that. They don't do warning bites. They just bite and their whole venom sac is emptied. So they said that could be even, worse for a dog. So anyway, I'm at war with the copperheads here on my little farm.
Oh God. Yeah. It's not fun at all.
Not fun at all.
Yeah. I grew up in New England, so I dealt with a lot of snakes, especially growing up as a kid and whatnot. But I think now it's been so many years that I'd probably freak out if I saw a snake.
Yeah, no, I don't mind them. I don't mind. But I do mind, obviously, the poisonous ones. I don't want them. Don't want anything to do with them. Hey, man, the other thing I want to tell you is I did something really, really cool this weekend besides dispatching a couple snakes and taking my dog to the emergency vet and spending a bunch of money. I was a volunteer, and actually a buddy of mine who was on this podcast 2 weeks ago. So Alex Torres, who we had on the show, he talks about, he is the director and founder of this body surfing competition here at Carolina Beach.
Oh, I saw
the Wamparama. Yeah. So, which is coming up next weekend. And I am the returning oldest dirt champion. And it is my full intention to retain that. So I'm going back to defend my position. I think I've won, or I've either been in first or second place every year they've had oldest dirt division. But at any rate, he's a volunteer every year for this organization called Life Rolls On. Have you heard of these guys?
No, I saw your photos on Facebook.
Yeah. Oh man, it was so amazing. So that folks that don't know, Life Rolls On is a nonprofit organization that works with what they call adaptive athletes. So these are handicapped and severely handicapped people of all ages, as it turns out. I was thinking it was kids, and I got down there, and it's all ages. And they take them surfing. And you might think, well, we're talking everything from, Down syndrome to severe paraplegics, right? So all sorts of things. But it's really, really cool. So my job there, just so people know, I was basically the MC. As it was, it's Mary Smith's time. Hey, will you call Mary Smith and tell her that it's her turn to surf? And so I get on the megaphone. Hey, Mary Smith, surf's up, and it's your time to surf. Let's go, girl. Let's go. Blah, blah, blah. So I was kind of, just the MC with my buddy who was also DJing and stuff for the event. So it was a blast. But here's the deal. In little tiny Carolina Beach, North Carolina, which is a little island, right? It's not a very big place. If you're not from here, you've probably never heard of it. We had 120 adaptive athletes from 20 different states show up. So that right there is amazing. Wow. But I'm getting shivers just talking about it. There were 550 volunteers that pulled this thing, that came together and made this thing happen. So if you saw on the Facebook or Instagram that panning shot, I'm sitting there in the booth with the microphones, basically, and the speaker, and those are all the volunteers sitting down getting debriefed that you see in there. There's 550 of them. So there's an army of these people that come together. They get these, I was going to say kids, but they get these people, these adaptive athletes onto surfboards and kind of wonder, well, hey, wait, how would you take a paraplegic surfing? You would get them out of their wheelchair, you put them on the surfboard, you would have a surfer, this is a pretty big board, right? You have a surfer laying on the back, maybe even laying across their legs to stabilize them, right? And then you've got this army of volunteers, right? So there's like 10 or 20 people on a team. You have these shallow water volunteers, these mid-water volunteers, and deep water volunteers. You get them out through the surf, and then you turn around and you ride a wave in. And it was amazing. And I tell you, it's kind of funny because there's this juxtaposition, right? This is a tiny town. There's a mayor there, a guy named Lynn Barbie. And of course, he comes out and speaks before the whole thing. Hey, the mayor's here. He wants to say a few words. And of course, he's really happy because all of these 550 volunteers, there's probably maybe 50, 100 of us from local. The rest of them are in from out of town, right? This is a big deal. And of course, you've got the families of all the adaptive athletes there. And so he's happy because tourism is what makes a little tiny place like that tick, right? But what he said was, hey, adaptive athletes, you inspire us. And he knew what this was, right? He said, hey, I've watched these videos. They inspire me. He said, you volunteers, you really inspire me. And then he went on to say, look, the next 3 months in this country are going to be the most politically and culturally divisive ever. And he said, some of you are going to get triggered. You're going to get all worked up. You're going to get on your keyboard. He said, stop. When you get there and you want to get on your keyboard and you just want to express your outrage, here's what I want you to do. Before you, write your missive or tell people how outraged you are, click on one of these videos. Click on one of these Life Rolls On videos. Watch all these volunteers come together. Watch these adaptive athletes. Watch the smiles on their faces. So this is what real unity is. This is what real inclusion is. This is what our country needs more of. When people want to tear us apart and divide us, I want you to remember this moment. I want you to click on those Life Rolls On videos. And I mean, I'm kind of like tearing up a little bit as he's saying this. So here's this little tiny town mayor. I think he's even a first time ever politician with this beautiful speech. And I'm like, man. And I'm sitting there and he's talking about this beautiful expression of the human spirit. And I'm comparing that, and prepare yourself, I'm getting ready to go here. I'm comparing that with the opening ceremony of the Olympics. Now, so that started out beautifully, right? You have the people running with the torch, and you had a couple paraplegics in there running with the torch and all that. But then you had this really odd, I mean, the only way I can describe it is a satanic drag show, basically. So this really bizarre, very divisive opening ceremony. And to me, it just, as I was sitting there in little tiny Carolina Beach, had this politician come up and talk about this is what America is, right? And then I see this really weird, bizarre, dark, what I look, make no apologies. I identify as a Christian. I am a Christian man. And seeing the Last Supper being mocked by a bunch of basically gyrating transvestites was really, really disturbing to me. And then the lone horseman, just all of it was really odd. And look, you could take my delicate Christian sensibilities out, and the whole thing was still dark and weird and strange, and has nothing to do, at least to me, with the coming together of all nations and all cultures and setting our differences aside and really celebrating the human spirit and what the human body is capable of. And I thought, wow, what a juxtaposition, right? Here we are in little tiny Carolina Beach, a little microcosm of the world, and there's this little tiny, I don't want to call him a redneck, but just a little tiny Southern dude mayor who's just so eloquently talking about the state of the world. And then I see the state of the world, right, in this opening ceremony. Really, really disheartening to me. I don't know if you had any thoughts or you wanted to follow up on that, or you want to be careful that we don't get canceled for calling out the Olympics.
I just think it's oddly placed, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Amen. Thank you. Look,
yeah.
I'm not even against drag shows.
Me neither.
Like Rocky Horror Picture Show as much as the next guy. What in the world does that? Look, my kids are grown, but if I'm sitting there with, say, my 6, 8, and 10-year-olds or something, and hey, we're putting aside the world's differences. We're celebrating the human experience. And then I see these dark themes. There's, I guess, Marie Antoinette. I suppose that's who that lady was. Her neck is spouting blood, and she's holding her head in her hands, and it's singing this weird chirping thing. And then, of course, you've got the grown men in dresses, basically, and with one kid, because what's a drag show without kids, right? Coming out and doing that weird Last Supper recreation. It's like, what does that have to do with the Olympics and the state of the world? And people tell me, oh, Kev, you just don't understand the French artistic sensibilities. I'm like, that's bullshit. That is bullshit, right? That just really dark. There was at one point, there was this scene with 3 kids in a tunnel, and there was a person in a dugout canoe or something with a shroud over their head. And look, it was artsy, it was challenging, it was difficult, and made you think. But what in the world does that have to do with the Olympics? And anyway, horrible.
I just get so tired of all our sports and this, including of some show in the middle of whatever sporting event we're watching.
Yeah. Famously, the Super Bowl, right? It's
just
really
just play the game. I mean, come on,
play the game.
Play the game. do your silly commercials and let's just roll on. I don't need to see I don't need a concert in the middle of my sporting event, and just things like that. It's just too much.
Crazy.
I don't know. We're getting to the point where we try to pack so much into some little event. How about just enjoy the little event that we have?
Yeah. Look, I get it. This is a big event, right?
Yeah.
But in my mind, here's where I go. Somebody somewhere's got like $10 million to spend on this opening ceremony, right? And they've got, I'm guessing somebody signed off on this. They're like, okay, what do you got for me? All right, get this. Got a bunch of transvestites. The guy's like, okay, go on. And yeah, we're going to just do this. We're going to have a drag show. Okay, that's kind of weird, but I get it. You're French and you're liberal, and these are woke times. Tell me more. Yeah, it's going to be really dark and satanic, and we're going to make fun of Christians. You're like, oh, okay. Let me just sign off on that. Just bizarre, right? I mean, a third of the world are identify as Christians, so to blatantly mock that in that way is just a really strange way to open the Olympics. But anyway, have you been watching? Have you been followed? Are you an Olympic guy? Do you follow
I'm hit or miss with it. There's certain things I'll watch, and I guess just like everything else now. I used to be a huge sports fan, but now I may watch certain games when I feel like they're exciting or not. But I'm not I don't glue myself to the TV. If anything, it's background noise. Yeah. I didn't even see the opening ceremony. I just saw the aftermath of it, the pictures and whatnot. So
if you go on, so you can, if you want YouTube, you can go down a rabbit hole. There's just people picking it apart. There's people supporting and saying, hey, you don't understand this. Yeah. They weren't really making fun of Christians. They were, this is Dionysus and Greek culture and this and that. And I call it complete and total bullshit. That was a very intentional mocking of the Christian faith. But, there's all this controversy going back and forth. And look, we're talking about it in our tiny little podcast. It has nothing to, other than the Olympics should be, inspiring those of us over 50, what amazing vessels these sacred bodies of ours are. But the whole world is now talking about it. So it's, it's probably mission accomplished for them, right? They got all this buzz happening about it. But I'll end with this, right?
That might have been it.
They chose to mock the Christian faith, which you can get away with, right? The basis of Christianity is, hey, we're going to love our neighbors and we're going to love our enemies, right? And we're going to practice tolerance. They did not, in fact, go after Islam, right? And they didn't show Muhammad and Prophet Muhammad in drag or anything like that, right? Because the Olympics just wouldn't have happened had they decided to do that. Just really, really odd.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, man, I promise folks that are still with us, we are going to talk about a little bit of, or maybe a lot of bit of health and fitness and some tips here in just a minute. But Russell, while I got you here and while we're talking about controversial things, since you've got a lifetime of background in police work and first responder type work, former President Trump got shot, dude. What the heck? What? I need your take. You and I haven't talked about this yet. I'm just clearly, I have no background in military or police work, anything, first responder type stuff. What's your take, dude? Is that, I'm ready to put on my tinfoil hat here. That just seems a little shady.
I have friends who are in the Secret Service, and
okay. Are you at liberty to speak with us here freely?
I don't know anything specific.
Okay, right on.
About that investigation, but it's just, I think what people don't understand in law enforcement and anything like that is we get handcuffed a lot of things we can and can't do, and I'm not using this as an excuse or anything, but I think that when people see a big show of force, we get dragged down. And a lot of times it's for our safety, if anything else. I do know the Secret Service does go out 4 or 5 weeks ahead of time and secures places. I don't know why they wouldn't cover places that would be accessible by rifle, but that's beyond me. I don't know the inner workings of that. I don't know I don't think it was a setup. I don't know.
So you don't think it was a setup?
I don't know about you, but to take a shot where I'm piercing somebody's ear, I couldn't do it if I went right up to your.
Oh, no. Okay. No, I don't think it was a setup in that way. Yeah.
Oh,
no.
okay.
Meaning, hey, let's just, all right, shooter, 20-year-old kid, I want you to nick his ear, right? Don't worry about the collateral damage behind. We'll take care of that. Well, no, okay. I'm thinking more like, how, the whole, is that just a serious gap that, hey, this very obvious place, and look, hindsight's 2020. I get it. Wasn't covered, and now we have reports of people. Hey, we saw a ladder going up to that roof. And we saw the dude there 20 minutes before.
Here's the other thing: when you get so many agencies involved, we're not on the same radio channel. So if you were to tell me as a local cop, hey, I see this guy going up on the roof, I don't know what the Secret Service is doing. I don't know if that's an undercover guy or, you know what I mean? Gotcha. So I have to radio to my dispatch, who radios to another dispatch, who goes, it's a telephone game, right? And by the time something gets notified, it might be too late.
Oh, yeah.
I hate Monday morning quarterbacking those things because it's such a hard thing. When you're in the moment, it's such a hard thing to deal with. You're trying to, sometimes you're almost in amazement. Like a kid is on the roof with a rifle. Like it doesn't click to you right away,
or almost in shock.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's funny. Since I've been out of police work, I don't watch the news anymore. And I think it's helped
Good for you.
My life 100%. People say stuff to me and I'm like, oh, really? What happened in my backyard, so I'm good.
Yeah.
It's helped my stress go down. But, I think that we're in an area now where our law enforcement officers are handcuffed a lot on the things they can do. And it's sadly, a lot of times we have to make a split-second decision. It's not always going to go great. And we have this this other thing that I always worried about. We call it awful but lawful, meaning, it's dark at night. You come at me and you pull out your cell phone like this. I don't have time to figure out what you're doing. I mean, to me, that's a movement with a handgun.
That's a threatening gesture.
I have to make a decision.
Split second decision. Yeah.
I shoot you, something happens, you die, whatever. We call that awful but lawful. Lawfully, I did the right thing, right? But so there's so many different scenarios like that, but that's the easiest one I can describe. But obviously the news is going to tear it apart. They're going to show you, Kevin, as a young high school student, and that's who I shot, not the 50-year-old deranged man that came after me. So it's such a hard position. I think somebody definitely overlooked that.
So more of a mistake than an intentional.
And then again,
we're trying to get rid of Trump. Let's let this kid up here and take a crack at him.
Here's another scenario, right? So I was a cop in a busy area. My cousin is a cop in a very rural area. He can make 1,000 car stops and nothing happens, right? So what do you think your mind goes through? Like, I've done this 1,000 times, nothing happens. You start relaxing some of your tactics, and maybe they've gone through thousands of those events and just slowly but surely, just overlook something. I don't know. I can't explain it. That's one thing I was thinking about, but I don't know. It's just very. And then again, why are we doing these things? We live in a world where we could do this. I want to hear the president speak. Get on a podcast or get on a media medium. Man, I'll save you millions of dollars right there. Do you have to go to Podunk, Iowa to stand in front of some farm to talk about the farming industry? No.
Right.
Do it from your back. I can put a farming background right now. And right? Yeah. It's so ridiculous. I think we live in a time now where we can make this thing totally safe. And God, can you imagine the amount of money you would save?
Yeah, there's got to be a lot of money. I mean, I'm just guessing the security detail in that alone, let alone the event itself, budget. But 100% with you. Yeah, I don't think live events going away anytime soon, though. No. When it comes to our politicians,
or anything else,
or anything else, right?
Yeah.
No, I enjoy. Like for example, I was around 1,000 people this weekend and absolutely loved it. It was beautiful. Could there have been one bad app because we had zero security, right? Yeah. But I suppose it's just crazy. It's unfortunate. Just with those two events kind of on the heels of each other, the attempted assassination, and then of course for some of us saw that Olympic celebration and they thought, hey, that was campy and fun and different, and just but others of us saw that as horrifying. And then, of course, here in the U.S., we have this election season coming up. So there's a lot of anxiety and apprehension about that. And, of course, we've never been more culturally or politically divided ever. Yeah. So just crazy, crazy times, man. But you know what? We're not here to talk about that, are we?
No.
Not really. I said that, and let me look at my timer here. We're 30 minutes into this, and we have yet to really talk about health and wellness for people over 50. So let's switch gears here. All right. Russell, I think you and I want to talk a little bit. We're recording this at the very beginning of August. So some of us are doing like you do, right? You took the kids and you did this last minute little trip, but I want to talk a little bit with you about some strategies for people who are starting, or maybe they're already on this health and wellness journey, how they manage vacations, meaning what do they do, right? So they've been quote unquote good, right? They're following a nutrition plan, they're working out, and they're getting ready to go on vacation. And I know you probably get this all the time with your clients. My clients are all the time saying, hey, Kev, getting ready to go on a vacation, 1-2 weeks, or, our European folks are, hey, we're getting ready to go on holiday for a month.
Yeah.
What should I do? And they're looking for these tips. So let's start here. Let's just kind of open the conversation. What do you tell a client who says, and let's not use a month long because that's a little bit different, but a 1 to 2 week vacation? What are you telling your clients? What kind of advice do we give these folks for how they should maintain or not their fitness, health, nutrition regimens during their vacations?
The first thing I bring up is a vacation's a special time, I think, and you usually family, friends, and it's not something that you do once a month or, that situation. So let's look at it in that sense. Obviously if we're training for a bodybuilding show next month, well, sorry,
That's different.
You're going to bring Tupperware and you're going to eat some bland stuff and you're going to hate me, but, but we're not doing that. So I generally tell them, let's set up some little tiny parameters that we're going to work around, right? Like, I don't want them doing an hour and a half workout 4 or 5 times a week, right? That's not necessary. I don't want them eating just chicken breast and broccoli. I mean, that's not fun for anybody. So, but I do say, let's have some small goals. And small goals to me when I go is I definitely get movement in. And usually that comes with a vacation. 9 times out of 10, I'm not, I'm moving more. I'm walking more. I don't know about you, but if it's 8 blocks away, I'm not getting an Uber. I'm walking because 9 times out of 10, I want to see where I'm at, see the city, see the area, and maybe cheapness gets involved. But so your movement, I think, increases significantly, which helps out. And I also just tell them, usually what I do is I monitor my protein. That's probably the hardest thing to do. And I don't go into it with a scale or anything like that. I just go in visually, about 5 to 6 ounces of a meat is good for me for each meal. We also talk about where you're going. So if you're going to a hotel, hey, maybe there's a workout room and we could do a maybe 20-minute dumbbell workout, every other day, just to start your day off right. If your vacation's an Airbnb, we could talk about other, maybe bands or TRX or something. But again, nothing more than 20 minutes. I never do more than that when I'm on vacation. And it's mostly just to start my day off right. I don't do it for muscle gains or for, anything like that. I usually tell them to bring protein powders, usually a big one for me. Because again, if I'm eating out a lot, it's going to be hard to hit those protein goals. So once in a while, I'll throw a protein shake in there. If it's something like, I just had a client who went somewhere, I think it was Nashville. So he's going to eat out a lot at night and he's not really too big in the daytime. And I said, all right, this is where I would do this. I would do protein breakfast, protein lunch. So maybe, nice big omelet with some meat in it. And then lunch, again, maybe salad with double meat or something like that.
Salad, double protein. Can't go wrong. Yeah.
And then evening, I just enjoy myself. I don't think about it. I even get dessert all the time. It is what it is, right? I don't try to make too big of a deal out of it. The weight you gain is mostly water weight, right? With extra sodium, and you're not used to eating out like that. Usually comes off. I usually tell them, don't weigh yourself until like 4 or 5 days after the vacation.
that is a good tip.
Right? Yeah. Because you're going to be disheartened when you see it.
Be discouraged.
But then 4 or 5 days later, you're like, oh my God, it just came off. It just either went back down. So, but a lot of times my folks come back and they're okay. They're either same weight or some have lost weight. I've had somebody lose weight on a cruise before.
Okay. Yeah. Or basically that's an all you can eat, all you can drink affair usually, right?
That's like,
that is a tough one. Yeah.
That's a deadly one.
Yeah.
For a diet or for anything. So those are usually the guidelines I use. Again, if you're drinking, I always throw the tip of have a drink and then have a big glass of water, then have another drink, have a big glass of water. You'll naturally drink less.
Right.
And plus, you'll feel better in the morning. So those are, I just have them like before vacation, we just go in with some small little rules, and I'm fine with that. I'm good with that. I don't go above and beyond that. I think if you're going to Hawaii and you're thinking you're going to lose weight and maintain the same thing you're doing now, you're why take the vacation?
Why take the vacation?
Yeah. So.
I'm with you 100%. So we haven't talked before this, but basically, it's no surprise we have very similar philosophies here, but I'm with you 100%. First things first, I tell people is, look, a vacation is by its very definition a break from your normal routine. And what you want to focus on here is less counting calories or knowing what your macros are, getting 5 workouts in or whatever, and more connecting deeply with the people you're traveling with. I want to connect with my loved ones, my wife, my kids, my family, friends, whoever I'm traveling with. I want to experience the place I'm going, right? I want to be deeply immersed in that and learn about it and have fun. And of course, walking is a fabulous way to do that. And everything else is secondary. But like you said, I personally love the idea of some guardrails when I'm on vacation, right? So for me personally, I'll usually have some, 1 or 2 non-negotiables. And this is what I tell my clients to consider. And it can be different for different people, but here's what I really like. And it's kind of similar to what you just said. I say my first non-negotiable is, for me, my personal protein goal is 200 grams of protein a day. I won't miss that. Like you said, I'm not bringing a scale. I'm not counting it, but I've done this long enough now. I know what that looks like. I know what it feels like. I'm getting my protein. Come hell or high water, I am traveling with protein powder. Makes it really easy. And I might do, these days I'll do 1 or 2 scoops every single day with my creatine. Yeah. I just bring some protein powder, and if I need to do 4 scoops in a day, I do 4. It's not a big deal, right? It's a temporary thing. I'm not focused on. That's one of the non-negotiables for me. The other is I'm going to walk a lot, and that's usually really, really easy. I can't remember. I'm trying to think if I've in recent memory. I can't think of a vacation where I didn't get like a minimum of 20,000 steps every day, because I really enjoy getting out, like you said, seeing the place that I'm in. My wife and I were recently in New Orleans. I've been there once many, many, many years ago, 20-something years ago. I had been back, and this time went with my wife, and it was really relaxing. I walked all over. I got like 30,000 steps every day. She was at a real estate conference during the day, and I just went out and explored and had fun and watched street musicians. But I would counsel people. And so for some people, your non-negotiables might be, I'll hit whatever my protein goal is, and I'll get 10,000 steps or something. But to your point, it might be something different, right? It might be, I'm going to bring a set of bands and I'll do a 20-minute workout every other day. For me, workouts, sometimes I'll bring my bands. I usually look and see if there's a gym. If there is, I pack gym clothes. I will tell you this, I have gone on vacation with gym clothes and never put them on. I've gone on vacation and put them on. I've had to actually wash them in the sink so that I can put them on again and I get to a resort and there's a beautiful gym. I'm like, oh man, this is nice. Yeah. So it really depends. And then of course the big one is alcohol for a lot of people. In recent history now, I'm not drinking. I became sober curious a couple of years ago, and that resulted to where I am today. But for people, and certainly in my past, I'm not one to preach to anybody about drinking, probably given my past, but certainly being mindful of that, because with that alcohol comes lots and lots of empty calories. But I think even more importantly for body composition and long-term health is the metabolic damage you're doing with heavy drinking, or even moderate drinking for that matter. Well, you're doing, let's not sugarcoat it. You're doing metabolic damage with every sip of alcohol you take. There's no redeeming health value to alcohol, but you could make a case that, hey, I'm going to relax over this glass or 2 of wine with my wife, and we're going to connect deeply. And okay, so there's a social value there, right? But like you said, I love the idea of every drink I have, I will have 8 ounces of water or something in between that. But I think everybody should have just some guardrails, some non-negotiables that they're going to follow. If you think those through before you go, that way you're not kind of like, well, I'm going to try and behave, quote unquote, behave, which is ridiculous, right? You having dessert, you having drinks is not you misbehaving. But just to enjoy that, and like you said, when you come back, don't freak out on the weight. If you are eating out all the time while you travel, you are 100% kind of, just because of the sodium, water weight, all of that stuff, you're going to weigh more for, like you said, the first 3-4 days. You're probably going to go right back to baseline pretty quickly.
Stress from traveling too.
Stress from traveling will have you, 100%. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I learned a couple years ago? I was at this conference and I was in a hotel. It was a fitness conference. So, and the
Yeah. All
hotel
right.
gym, I
Yeah.
was like, so I went there with the intention of working out. And then I was like, wait a minute, I'm in a fitness conference. We're all staying in the same hotel. I go, this is going to be brutal. And I'm like, no, I'm not even going up in there because I already
Yeah.
knew how small it was. Well,
Yeah.
anyways, I was walking down the street for breakfast and I saw this gym and I'm like, what the day fees are. Maybe I'll just do a couple days, Went in and the guy, you could tell he was about to sell me on a membership. And I'm like, I don't have this gym in my area. I'm from out of town. He goes, oh, where are you staying? And I told him, and he goes, oh, we partner with them. You can use our gym for free while you're here. And I said, oh my God. And he said, yeah, that happens a lot. Like, so that I've used that a couple times where I've asked the hotel if they partner with the gym, and they actually
Yeah.
do. So you can get free.
That's true. A lot of them do. Yeah.
Yeah, I never knew that. So I thought that
Yep.
was really interesting. But yeah, I don't know about the 6 dumbbells that were in the hotel gym. If the whole fitness conference would have had a
Yeah. The
great
whole fit.
workout.
You got,
Yeah,
yeah, I got a bunch of fit guys
I'll
and gals
borrow
down there at
one.
5 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like,
All standing in line for dumbbells.
I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
sure a week of not working out would be okay.
Right. Yeah. You and I have been to the NCI, which is Nutritional
Yeah, that's what it
Coaching
was.
Institute. Yeah. Yeah. I've been in that gym, and yes, it's packed. Yeah, you're right. But they had a big gym right down the road that they were partnered with. So yeah, that's another good tip. I really like those. You mentioned them, the long bands. I think they're called super bands. You can get them on Amazon for like $25, under $30, something like that. And they usually come with like a set of 4 or 5, and they range from thick, so the high resistance, to very thin, the very low resistance. There's tons of things you can do with those. And in fact, if you go to Silver Edge, let's see, what is that? Let me make sure I get this right. I'll go back and edit it if I screwed this up. But I think it's Silver Edge Free. If you go there, yes, silveredgefree.com. We have got a bunch of different free guides there, but one of them's called Workout Anywhere. And that's I've had people who are more serious. They're well on their way. And look, I don't want to break my routine of workouts. Yeah. What can I do? Not going to be a gym really where I'm going, oh, just if you don't already have a set of bands, which everybody should. I think they're great for mobility, warm up, lots of cool things, as well as they're very portable. Get a set of bands and just download that free guide. I think it's 3 different workouts that it rotates you through, and there's they're all hyperlinked. You can get a video of how, a banded good morning, for example, or banded tricep extension, all that kind of stuff. So that's another good option for those of you that are a little bit more hardcore about your workouts. You're maybe concerned. But one thing I hear, speaking of, concerned about missing workouts, is I'll hear a lot of people saying, I don't want to, I've worked so hard. I've been working with you guys for 4, 6, 12 months, whatever. I don't want to lose my gains. I don't want to lose what I've got. But I go on vacation, and I'm just here to tell you, you won't. If you go on a week vacation, you don't do anything but sit on your butt, drink margaritas, and eat bad. You're going to come back and you got some work to get back to baseline, right? But that's it. You didn't lose all your gains. You're going to get right back where you were quickly. Again, real big fan of setting up some non-negotiables so you don't go completely off the rails. That's one thing I really do frown upon. If you look at vacations, time to kind of get you in that all or nothing thinking, right? Well, when I get back, I'll be good. I'll make up for it. But while I'm going, I'm just, nothing's off limits. I'm just going to live this crazy hedonistic lifestyle and eat and drink and be sedentary. I wouldn't advise that unless that's really your jam and you think that's going to be what recharges your battery. But for most people, I think just having some sort of moderate guardrails that still allow you to really enjoy what a vacation is supposed to be, a break from, all of your work and your workout and obsessing over nutrition, etc.
Yeah. And I agree. And, if you're in this program and you go in the middle of, let's say, going on vacation in the middle of it, you've eaten, a set amount of calories for so long. Even if you do and, eat like a gluttonous pig day 1, I guarantee you're not going to do it day 2. You're just going to be like, oh my God, it's so miserable. So
right.
I don't know if you could do it for 7 days in a row. It'd be tough. It'd be tough on me. Even when I just went away for a couple of days, and the first day I didn't eat like a gluttonous pig, but I don't eat out a lot. So when I ate out for a whole day straight, I was like, oh my gosh, that really was painful. But day 2, like, all right, maybe I'll lessen the load on day 2. But yeah, and you're right. Like, if you went away on vacation for a month and got hospitalized day one and hospitalized for the whole time, didn't eat, didn't move, yeah, you're going to lose gains or something like that. But a week or two, no, you're not going to.
Yeah. And you brought up a good point too. Our clients, when we're onboarding or as we're working with them, they will let us know. They're like, hey, I've got this cruise coming up, or I'm going on vacation this month. And we typically, earlier I referred to, hey, we have this framework. There's this pre-diet, there's this diet, and there's this post-diet phase, right? And we try really hard to not send people on vacation while they're in that active fat loss phase and that active diet phase. So we want people to have food freedom. We don't want to send them there, a guy, for example, only eating 1,800 calories a day, right? That might be that's going to be tough for that person to be restrictive while they're on vacation. We would rather reverse them out of that and be more in that metabolic building phase where, say, that same guy, as opposed to eating 1,800, is eating 2,800 calories, right? He's got tons of food freedom on vacation. Yeah. And if he goes a little over, so be it, right? That's fine. But as opposed to being in that restrictive phase, that active fat loss phase, which for us in our program, just so folks know, folks come into our 6-month program, they spend about 2/3 of that not dieting. So just to be clear, most of these people want to lose fat. That's why they come into our program. Most of that time that they're with us, we are not in an active fat loss phase. If you want to hear more about that, just reach out. I can point you to some other resource. You're like, wait, how does that work? If you're going to a 6-month program, how are you not dieting for 6 months? We're not, and that's another rabbit hole we probably don't want to address right here, but it is a programming consideration for us and our coaches here for our clients as they have upcoming vacations. We're always trying to just position where that rapid fat loss phase falls. We don't want it to fall while they're on vacation. I'm guessing you do the same, right?
Yeah. I try to project out. I think we talked about that before, like looking ahead of what we have. Yeah. Sometimes you can use it as a break too, a diet break, and like you said, kind of factor that in ahead of time. But what you were saying about the, 2/3 or a third of it, you're not dieting.
It's not dieting.
Yeah. Or 2/3. Yeah. So 2/3 you're not dieting. When you do that all or nothing diet, those are the ones that don't last, right? So ours is more of a lifestyle, and that's why we do that, right? So we do it because we want this to integrate this into your life, right, and have this be a normal part of your life. So,
and there's a trade-off, right? We're trading rapid fat loss for permanent loss, basically, right? We're building healthy habits for our clients as opposed to, hey, we're going to strip off 20 pounds in 2 months.
Hey, you and I can easily do that, right?
Yep, sure.
With a client,
But we're also going to dig a really deep metabolic hole that you're not going to be able to climb out of, and you're going to be miserable, and you're going to gain that weight back. That's just how that works. That's why 90% plus of all diets fail for long-term weight loss. But hey, that brings up a really good point. As you know, I've just moved. I had this very stressful move. So we moved out of our old house. We basically turned our old house into a duplex for the kids. I have 2 adult kids, so they're here on the farm with us. It's really been enjoyable having them here close, but now we're landlords for our kids, which that's another story for another time. We got this gorgeous house that we built right down the lane here. We're finally in there, but there was a lot of stress in that whole transition. We screwed up the timing, or I say we thought we were going to be displaced, my wife and I, for 2 weeks, and it ended up being closer to 3 months. So we were basically living out of a suitcase.
Sounds about right.
For 3 freaking months. It was horrible. Before we finally got in here, now it's all worth it. But I'll tell you this. Of course, look, I'm a personal trainer. I'm a nutrition nerd, and I'm what you would term a fitness fanatic. I'm a little obsessive about it when I don't get to the gym. I don't feel right. Yeah. I'll be moping around the house, and my wife will be, for the love of God, would you just go to the gym? I'm like, okay, thank you. Yes, I will. So I don't like to miss workouts. And there's this concept that we don't talk about on this show very often, but there's this concept in programming for intermediate and advanced lifters. I got a couple of lifters on my roster that have been with me over 2 years, one of them probably 3 years, and we have to program in deload weeks for these people. In other words, we actually program breaks. But for most of us, and what made me think of this is I just had a deload week. I was moving, so I was carrying heavy boxes that whole week. But I basically, because of all the craziness and actual move week, I missed 6 days. Or was it 7? Basically, I missed a whole week of the gym, which I haven't done in years, maybe. But I mean, I've taken deload weeks. I hate it for a number of reasons. But for most people, we don't talk about deloads weeks because life kind of throws them in there, right? A vacation is a perfect example of a deload week. If you're very, very consistent, 3 days a week, an hour at a time, doing full body strength training workouts and maybe a cardio session here and there or a HIIT session here and there, then you go on vacation and that kind of, or something happens, right? Maybe you have a kid getting married and it's wedding week and you only get one workout in that week. Well, that's a deload week, right? So we don't talk a whole lot about that. And unless you have a more advanced athlete on your roster, it's probably not really a big deal just because life inserts them, and life rarely inserts them in my life because I'm really freaking I'm obsessive about it. But it just recently did. And I'll tell you this, I took a week off from the gym and I'm thinking to myself, all right, Kev, you're a trainer, and what would you tell your client? You would tell them, hey, let's just ease back into this. I got in the gym and I felt like freaking Superman.
Yeah.
I felt strong. I was, I'm always looking at my notes to see what I did last time, and I'm trying to practice progressive overload, and I'm plateauing. I'm trying to figure out how to overcome the plateau and all this good stuff. There was no plateau in there. I was hitting it. So by taking that time off, I actually felt stronger and better, and I think I needed it. Right?
Yeah.
Lately I've been on a 5-day-a-week body part split, and before that, for the longest time I was doing what all our clients do. I was doing 3 days a week of full body, which look, you can't go wrong with that prescription. You just can't. But I'm just playing around with some different programs. I actually wrote a 5-day-a-week body split program for one of my clients. I was like, damn, that looks like fun. So I'm doing it with him. But anyway, I think that if you think about vacation in that context, right, that is just naturally breaks up the routine.
Oh, yeah.
Come back, you should be feeling refreshed, recharged, ready to get after it. And there's something to be said for that as well.
Yeah, and same with eating too, right? Like,
sure.
If you eat, at home and you have all this stuff. And then, I don't know about you, but when I go on vacation, I really enjoy the food, but 100%. In the back of me, I'm like, God, I can't wait to get back to when I was eating, my normal routine. So. Right. Yeah, no, those deload weeks are great. It's funny you brought up the 5-part body split. I just ended a program of mine, 3 day a week, typical. And then I'm like, ooh, maybe a 5-day. And then
I got a good one.
I used to be a 5-day and more, right? And now the past 2 years, I've been doing 3 to 4 maybe days.
Sure.
And now I'm like, nah, I don't want to do a 5-day. I'm good with my 3-day. I like my 3-day. It just, for me, I was getting more out of it. But yeah, it's funny. You go through those cycles where you think that's the only way to work out.
Yeah, we talk about it all the time here on the show, right? It's a bell curve.
Yeah.
Gains, right?
Yeah.
If you're doing too little, you ain't getting the gains. If you're doing too much, you ain't getting the gains.
Yeah.
There's a sweet spot in the middle. And so for most people, they're not doing enough. We got to push them in. We got to push them this way to do a little bit more to get the optimum results. Yeah. But then you get people like me that are a little more obsessive. They, certainly I think if you ask my wife, she would describe me that way. For me to get those optimal gains, sometimes it's a matter of pulling back, right?
Yeah,
it would be very easy for me to go to the gym 7 days a week.
You're the harder client to turn back.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, I got to pull the reins on you.
Well, it's counterintuitive, right? Because pretty much everything else in my entire life, the harder I work, the more gains I get, right? The harder I work in this business, the more fruit it bears. The harder I work on my relationship, the better it is. The harder I work at, when I was a career guy, the harder I was a commission sales guy. The harder I worked, the more money I made.
Yep.
The gym is not like that. The harder I work at the gym, up to a point, there's a point of diminishing returns. Yeah. And what's surprising is where that line is. You might think, well, okay, not 7 days a week, but 6 days a week is better than 5 days a week, which is better than 4 days a week. It's not. For most of us, it's not, right? Yeah. So, something to be said there for practicing.
That's very true. You're right. Absolutely right.
Yeah. And that's good news, right? Because most people are not fitness fanatics, right? Especially our clients as they come in, they're like, hey, I'm trying to practice some healthy habits. I've struggled my whole life, for example. And so if we had to tell them, well, here's the deal. You're going to spend an hour and a half in a gym 6 days a week and have to eat chicken and broccoli every single day, and you've missed 8 hours of sleep, you're screwed, right? Don't even bother coming back. That would be a miserable existence. Yeah. But if I can say, hey, if you do 2 to 3 full body workouts a day, 45 minutes to an hour, and you just make reasonable, healthy food choices most of the time. We're going to prioritize protein. We're going to prioritize whole foods over processed foods. But if you just do those basic things, that's really all you need to do. Mm-hmm. And that's great news if you're not a fitness fanatic, right? If you don't want to live in the gym. But what we find is that people come kind of dragging, and some of them kicking and screaming, into this sort of healthier lifestyle, and they start with 2 days a week, or they start with 3 15-minute morning workouts or something, and they start, they're drinking 10 Cokes a day or whatever, and then gradually over time they're like, oh, I got a gym membership, can you bump me up a little bit to another day a week? And just all of a sudden, as you start to experience the benefits of these healthy changes, basically better mood, feeling better, looking better, better sleep, improved just energy, all of this, improved libido, all of this stuff, right? Is that as you start to experience those kinds of things in your life, you want more of that, right? And you're, oh, okay, maybe I don't hate this as much, and maybe this is pleasant, and I can do a little bit more. So at least that's been my experience with folks. Is just kind of
you're right.
Yeah, gently lead them into this lifestyle.
Yeah, that's the best way of doing it. Yeah. Make them fall in love with the progress.
Baby. Yeah. Yes, if you fall in love with the process of becoming strong, capable, fit human, you will do this for the rest of your life. If you view diet and exercise and lifestyle habit change as this odious task that you have to be motivated or have determination and dedication to for the rest of your life, and you're doing it only because you say, I want to drop a few pounds, you're in for a tough road, right? So we talk about that as coaches all the time. How do I get some of my passion into you, right?
You were talking about the harder you work in every other aspect, you gain something. Well, the funny thing about it is the harder you work at your job, right? You get more money, right?
Right.
There's only one outcome of that, right? You get more money. The harder you work, like you're there more, you're away from home. So you take a lot away, right? But
that's a good point. Yes.
But the fitness side of it, I think people look at it the other way. So they only look at the scale, right? And they don't look at all the other things that are great around that, right? So they don't look at, better sleep, better, I'm able to play with my children more, energy, I'm able to sleep better, all that other stuff.
Functional mobility.
Yeah, we're like, there's so much more benefit than just the one thing we get out of it,
Well said, sir. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Russell. Well, we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
Started with snake wrangling and canoeing, and moved right into some Olympic heresy there, I think. And
Secret Service,
a little bit of assassination attempts, and ended here on a beautiful note, I think. Right? Everybody should be embracing these healthy habits for a more beautiful life. And let's see, where do we want to send people? I suppose over to the Facebook group.
Yeah.
All right. Quick PSA for those that, thank you if you listened this long. We've had here in the last couple of weeks, probably a dozen, maybe 10 people that have requested to join our private Facebook group, which is the Over 50 Lean Body Blueprint, but you're not answering any of the questions. We have 3 questions. It's like, what are your challenges? What do you want to accomplish? And how old are you, maybe? I mean, I'm not even asking for your contact info. 3 really easy questions that you could answer in a couple words each. And you have to click that I agree to the terms, I agree to the terms, which is basically, we're not going to do hate speech. We're not going to bully. We're not going to have political debates. So don't come at me for, hey, are you anti-trans? No, please. But we're not doing that and that. But at any rate, I'm not letting those people in. So if you want to join, we want you to join and continue conversation over there about healthy aging. Please, please, please do me a favor. And if I've kicked you out, if I've denied your application, or I don't know if you see that, if you've applied and nothing's happened, I've denied your application. Please just go in, answer those 3 questions, click I accept the terms, I accept not to bully people and be mean, and I'll let you in. What's happened was we've had a couple of people come in, and there's just a couple bad actors, right? A couple bad apples will always ruin it for everybody. But we've had a couple people come in. What they do is they block the moderators. So me, Russell, Jess, and Monica are all moderators. We can't see, or Yeah, so they block us so that we can't see what they post, and then they post some spam stuff. And we get people, so I've had a couple of people say, hey, Kev, did you see this? And I look and I was like, no, I didn't see it. And I go back to my feed. It's not there. I'm like, oh, crap. Okay, so then I boot that person out. But that's why we do that. It's also part of our market research. When you come in, I say, hey, what are you struggling with? I genuinely want to know. What is it? Time? Is it? I don't feel like I'm motivated enough. I don't know what to do, but they're really easy questions. So we'd love for you guys to join us there, continue the conversation. So if you want to join us there, we'd love to have you. Just answer those questions and tick that little box.
Definitely.
All right. Russell, got anything else before we go?
No, that's it.
All right, buddy. Once again, I love chatting with you, and
Me too.
We'll do it again soon.
Yes, sir.
All right, man.
All right. Bye.
Okay, that's our show for today, folks. If you've enjoyed this podcast, I want to let you know that we have other free resources over at silveredgefree.com. There, you'll find our free guides with our top tips on nutrition, exercise, and lifestyle to assist you in your weight loss and fitness journey. So feel free to head over there and download anything that looks useful to you. I'll put links to everything we talked about in the show notes. You folks can find those over at silveredgefitness.com/294. As we wrap up our time together today, you can show your support for this show in two important ways. The first is to tell a friend about this podcast and encourage them to give it a listen. The second is for you YouTube folks to click the like and subscribe buttons, and for you podcast folks to please give this podcast a 5-star review on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on, and be sure to subscribe and follow so you don't miss any future episodes. I really appreciate you spending your time with me today, and until next time, stay strong.